Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network for Entrepreneurs. I'm Dan Handford, and my wife, Dennae, and I interview successful people sharing stories behind tough decisions that they've had to make along their journey as an entrepreneur. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HandfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HandfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HandfordCapital.com.
Hello, and welcome to the Friday edition of the Tough Decisions podcast. This is your host, Dennae, and I hope to be able to share some valuable information with you. And we're going to kind of continue the theme of personnel and hiring and some of the issues we've been talking about with that. I want to shift gears just a little bit, and I want to talk about doing regular performance reviews with your staff and some of the issues, maybe some of the obstacles that you may face. And we're going to talk about some of the advantages of doing those reviews today. And then hopefully next Friday, we might talk about some obstacles and some things to look for when you are performing those annual reviews with your staff. Now, I say annual because that's what we do with our staff, but it doesn't have to be annual. It can be biannual. It can be twice a year. I kind of feel like biannual is probably not often enough, but whatever works for you. The idea is that you want something that's regular. You want something that your staff knows is coming and they can count on. And there are some challenges to it, and so we'll talk about those as we go. But the value and what is gained from those performance reviews is really important. And so that's kind of what I want to focus on today and why you should have regularly scheduled staff performance reviews in your organization. Now, I know at first it may seem like it's not very productive, and that's because it doesn't immediately produce something or something monetary or quantifiable. It may feel a little bit like a waste of time. It has to be scheduled. And, it takes some preparation. You want to have those documents ready beforehand. The way that we do it is we have a performance review document that we give to the staff, and it has, different categories, different areas that we are looking for, and it allows the staff to rate themselves in one line, and then they do that, they read through it and do that, and then they hand it into their supervisor, and their supervisor rates them in the same areas in the second line. And we do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, that allows the employee to give their perception of their job performance, and it shows the supervisor how that employee feels. And, sometimes it's surprising that the employee may not feel that they're doing a very good job in an area where the manager is very satisfied and vice versa. And I think this allows for some good conversation and some good feedback and good results this way because the manager gets an idea of the employee's perception of their job. And if those two don't align, then that's where the conversation really comes in. And I think it's helpful to see how that employee is approaching this particular area of their performance. The manager, I think, has to be very careful to make the performance review constructive and helpful. The idea is not usually to conduct a performance review and then let someone go. That's not what the purpose of it. The purpose is to allow for some feedback, and feedback really should be happening all the time, but set aside some time for feedback so that everyone can be better. And also on our performance review documents, we always allow place for the employee to give their suggestions, allow them to put areas where they feel like they need more training, allow them to list some things that they enjoy about their job and how their job can be more enjoyable. And I think all of those are important aspects because the goal of the performance review is to make the employee better, but also to make the organization better. And that's how it has to be approached. So some advantages or some benefits of conducting regular performance reviews. First of all, I think it makes employees feel valued. And I want to kind of come back to this at the end and close with this. But an employee who is giving their all to your organization, they are going to be the kind of employee that wants your feedback. They want the praise and they want the recognition, but they also desire, and if you have the right kind of employee, he or she is going to desire the feedback on how they can be better. And those are the kind of people that you want in your organization. You don't want someone who is afraid of constructive criticism or constructive feedback. If you'll remember back to, I guess a month or so ago now, we were talking through some topics from Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last, and one of the weaknesses of this millennial generation tends to be that they don't know how to take criticism and feedback. And so that may be an educational process for a lot of your employees, but helping them to realize that this is good for them and this is a growth mechanism is really important. So it's a way to make your people feel valued. It's also a way for people to sit down and set goals together. Typically, your most productive employees are going to be driven, self-motivated people. And so they're going to have goals. And if you can put two heads together and understand what their goals are, when you help them reach their goals, then they can also help your organization reach its goals. And so setting new goals together can be really productive. It is also a way to allow two people, managers, employees, to resolve any grievances that may exist. And these may be things that, in the hustle and bustle of the day-to-day work schedule, just get brushed under the rug or, skipped over because the job demands are calling and we've got stuff to do, so we don't have time to deal with this. But over time, that can really hurt the relationship, be negatively impactful on that manager-employee relationship. So this is a good time to resolve those grievances. Again, if everyone approaches it the right way, it can be really, really valuable. But giving some education and making sure that your employees know the purpose of this and why we're doing this together has to be done first. This is not a time to just sit down and air grievances and, give the person that you're conducting this review with a laundry list of all the ways that they're not helpful in your department. Or for the employee side, this is not a time for you to give your manager a laundry list of ways that he or she is failing you. That's not the purpose. But if there are things that need to be discussed, if there's clarification that needs to come about, this is a great way to do this. And I like the scheduled performance review because, again, sometimes in the day-to-day demands of the work, it just gets lost. But it's not gone. It's just there and it gets, sort of brushed under the rug. But in a time of crisis or in a time of difficulty, these are the kinds of things that pop up, rear their ugly heads, if you will, and keep people from working together as well as they could. And so when we have a time when those things can be resolved and everybody can get back on the same page, it's really good for the people, but it's also really good for the organization. It can help to refocus everyone. So this is another advantage of getting everyone back on the same page, giving that positive feedback to let them know that they are a valuable member of the team, but also refocusing on the goals of that particular department or the job duties of that particular department can be really helpful, very productive. It can be an opportunity to provide some oversight on any current projects that are going on. A really busy manager is going to have to sometimes delegate some responsibilities, and a lot of times they may just need to swoop in, check on everything, and then, go back to their managing responsibilities. But if they're a good manager, they're going to have a 30,000-foot view of those projects that are going on in their department. So this can be a time to allow for that. And then finally, I think it's a great opportunity to evaluate what training needs to be done with your team. If you have, 5 employees and 3 of them are not meeting your standards in a certain area, then maybe that's a sign that more training needs to be had. It also allows the employees to say, hey, I really don't feel like I've been trained, or maybe I just don't feel very competent in this area. Can you give me some more training? Can you give me some more education? And that's not the kind of thing we want to discourage. Those are the kinds of employees that we want. And so allowing that feedback from them and allowing them to say, hey, I feel like I could be better in this area, but I need some help. And then listening and acting on that is very, very important. If you feel like this may be something that your organization is not doing very well, then I would give you a couple of ideas here. Number one, you need to figure out what schedule you're going to use to evaluate your employees. In our organization, we do a 90-day evaluation. The purpose of the 90-day evaluation is, to get the team member in there, to get them trained, to get them going, and then immediately allow for some feedback, because we do a 90-day temporary employment. Basically, we call them probationary employees. So the first 90 days, they're probationary. Once they've been trained and they've shown themselves able to do the work, then at 90 days, they have a review and, they become a permanent part of the staff, if you will. Not permanent meaning that they are never going to be let go or never going to leave, but permanent meaning they are a full-fledged employee then at that 90 days. We use the same document for that 90-day review that is used for all the other regular reviews. And then after that, we do an annual review. And we've recently changed around the way we do that. And so I'm interested to know how that happens. But typically we would do an annual review on the anniversary of their employment. And that kind of got to be a lot to keep up with. Once you get past, a dozen or so employees, that's you're doing reviews all year long. And so what we decided to do is conduct reviews 1 month out of the year for everybody. And so everybody in the organization gets a review in a set month that we've decided on. And of course, that's going to be a busy month, but that allows for everything to get done at one time. And we can set aside that month as kind of, that's our review time. And so we know it's coming. It can be planned for in that way. If you have staff that don't like the idea of being reviewed and, they just seem resistant to the whole feedback issue and don't understand the purpose, then I would challenge you to approach it with them this way. And this is the way I look at it, is that this type of confrontation is very valuable. And we only take time and invest in this type of confrontation with people that we value. Confrontation, that word itself usually has a negative connotation, but I don't look at it that way. I think confrontation is a really important part of any relationship. And again, we only take the time and invest in this type of confrontation with people that we value. And so if your employees are having a hard time, just let them know, this is not an easy thing to do. This takes time. This has been well thought out. And the reason that we're doing this is because we value you. We don't want there to be any issues that would create a rift in this relationship between employer and manager. We value this relationship. We value this person enough to put in the time and the energy that it takes to give constructive feedback. I tell my children the same thing. Look, I don't spend time confronting everybody's kids in the neighborhood. All right. It's not that I dislike everyone else's kids in the neighborhood, but I love my children. And so when there's a problem, we're going to sit down and we're going to discuss it. We're going to have a confrontation. Again, not a bad confrontation, but we're going to discuss the issue and I'm going to give you some feedback. And it goes both ways. I'm going to listen to what's going on in their head as well. And why do I do that? It's because I value that relationship. I love them enough to invest in that conversation that can be difficult, that is definitely time consuming and demands your energy. But if you value someone enough, then you're going to be willing to do that. And that's the way I think that we need to look at performance reviews. And I think that's really the right way to look at confrontation in general. But I think approaching it that way will help your staff who may be a little bit resistant to this whole idea of feedback. They don't want to sit down and hear how, they may be falling short just a little bit. And that's definitely part of it. And so it needs to be included, but it's also a time to explain to them and show them where they are excelling. And that can be very valuable as well. So performance reviews are, I think, an essential part of staff growth and development. You don't want to leave it out because there is much to be gained from conducting these regular performance reviews with your staff.
Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.